What's going on, people? So, got to give this a second, as I always do in the first stages of these lives. Got to make sure everything actually happens. And if it looks like I'm kind of looking off into the distance, that's because the TV has all like is being used as the monitor right now. Because when I show these little figures in the camera, if I'm using the laptop screen, then there's all this glare stuff, and it's just not a good thing, right? It's not a good look, as they say. So it looks like that's fine. Even the quality looks like it's decent, which is good because I was doing a whole bunch of uploading earlier. Had a lot of videos rolling out over the next later tonight, tomorrow morning, something like that. So now that that's done, I can do this and it not be impacted. But here's the thing: I'm going to talk about some Marvel Legends figures and whatnot because that's a thing that I happened to have on the side and was like, those haven't fallen into any of the lives yet. So if they go ahead and do that, what is going on, Mr. Hannon? How's everything working out on your side of the world, huh? So let's see what he said. What's up, good folks? Okay, yeah. I saw your name before I actually read the message. You know, it's kind of one of those things I do sometimes. But yeah, so the way this happened to play out was like, because I buy my share of like little statues and things like that of stuff that I grew up with or whatever. And so Amazon, they send me this email overnight or whatever, and I see it like when I wake up in the morning. It's like, hey, you should buy these things. I'm like, what are you trying to sell me on now? So I open it, and it's like a bunch of stuff that I actually wanted, and like the prices were crazy low. And before I had any time to think about it, I was just adding the stuff to the cart and paying for it, you know? So I got this first set largely from Amazon, but partially also from eBay because I think the Beast came from them. And the thing about the Build-A figures, you get all of them, and then you can build that whoever the dude is, right? So that's kind of the way that works. So this is the Sugar Man set, came out like a year or two ago. So you got Morph, which is it's kind of a weird look for him because if you remember him from the animated series, it looked very different then. It says I can't complain, just tapping in dope content. Appreciate that. Yeah, I've been trying to like get. I have a whole bunch of like little things that I haven't done, like a lot of those wrestling things that we're building up. So I just threw those up all well throughout yesterday. I think I put up 6 yesterday, and I have 2 more to go up today, which I've finished earlier. And so then after today, I should get back in like the shoe thing Monday through however long, right? I just did my quarterly pickup thing, so that'll be out in the morning. And then hopefully a New Balance, no, not New Balance, a Fila review should be going up hopefully Tuesday or Wednesday. Now that I got a little more daylight to work with, makes the recording for the on feeds a little easier. Wild Child, right? He was part of that whole set too. Kind of like I don't really know like the background of the guy or whatever, but I saw it and I was like, I already wanted this one, almost bought it just by itself, you know. But there was no real reason to. And then, of course, you got to have Wolverine there, which I'd seen pictures of him with like the whole one arm thing before, but I didn't know claws actually came out of that. I thought it was just like a stump, you know. But I guess that makes sense because otherwise he'd just be like a one-handed dude, and he'd still be worthwhile, I suppose, because he's Wolverine. But it would be kind of just weird. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. Did you watch Money in the Bank? I watched both of those, AEW Forbidden Door and Money in the Bank. So I'll start with Money in the Bank since it's more recent and therefore fresher. So first off, this whole Cody Rhodes and what's his name, Dominic thing, they're billing that as like the double or triple main event. That was in no way, shape, or form a main event. Like I don't know why they were acting like it was more important than it was because it wasn't. But either way, overall, I was pretty into the outcome, and I liked how the match played out for the women's ladder match because Io Sky hasn't really done a whole lot in a while. She was like way up here, and then they just kind of pushed her down to the side. She made that comeback at SummerSlam, and then it was just kind of not a whole lot happened for a while. So hopefully now she goes on and does something. I'm guessing maybe she'll end up in some kind of feud with Asuka or something. We'll have to see how everything plays out. But that's what I would like to see happen, you know, because that hasn't really happened a whole lot. They're not using Cody Rhodes. You know, Cody came in strong. He came in super hot, right? Like all the attention, everything built around him. And now he's just there. And he's just another guy on the card, really. But he's marketable, right? Real quick, let me finish this off so I can put something else in my hands here. This is Dark Beast, right? So just like a darker version of Beast, it comes with like the hammer, kind of like a Thor hammer, but Sugar Man or whatever. Almost bought this thing when I saw it at a Walgreens in Somerville, South Carolina, but I was like, I don't want that. Then I'd have to get the whole set. Next thing you know, I'm buying the whole set. Could have saved some money. So Cody Rhodes, right? Cody Rhodes he's good, right? He's like the wrestling thing. Like I can't complain about that. He does get a little annoying when I hear him talk because like everything is just so over the top. He's like, "Oh, I have to finish the story because I was 8 years old and I knew that this was my legacy to build." It's like you didn't know that when you were 8. Like really? And everything is just means so much to him. It's like, dude, just you're there. Just let it go. Just be you. You know what I'm saying? Unless that is him, in which case, dang, that sucks. But he he needs to tune that a little bit, because it's where it is right now. It needs to be adjusted. But if he goes back to AEW, I mean, there's nothing he could do there that he can't do in the other place, I guess. So in some ways, it doesn't really matter. It was weird to see him leave, though. I heard Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks think about jumping ship. I honestly can't see that happening, right? For them, just I mean, maybe years down the line, right? When they're kind of done wrestling and stuff. But for right now, it just seems like they want or need more freedom than they would have over there, right? And if I was them, right, and I saw how things were going with Cody Rhodes and several other people that are over there, I don't know that I'd want that. The pay can be good. And like, again, later on, once your body's kind of like not really working full time anymore, yeah, that could make sense. But like right now, they're still good. They still got some years left in them. So sitting here in the AEW world, they're able to jump around and do some stuff with Ring of Honor and Impact and Japan and anything else. You know what I'm saying? So I just can't see it happening. If anything, I would imagine there'd be people that might be considering jumping to there, right? To AEW. The only thing that makes me hesitant to say that is that there's so many people over there right now that aren't being used. I mean, they get their time to shine, right? Like they'll have their 20 minutes on TV doing a match, whatever. But then it's like say Sean Spears or something. Then all of a sudden you just don't see him forever. Granted, he had some personal things going on, but I'm saying there's a lot of people that just fall by the wayside. And then like you have Miro. Miro just came back, right? So now he's on the cards again, hopefully for a while. But there's just so little room there that I think in a lot of ways the best place to go would probably be like maybe Impact, because their shows have been solid. They don't have a huge crowd or whatever, but the wrestling, it seems to be where you want it. It's entertaining. They got a decent variety of characters and whatnot, and it's not too over the top. Like the AEW, there's always somebody like busted open and bleeding and all this stuff. And yeah, that is just, hey, we're here. We got a wrestling show. Watch it. This is Sunfire, right? Yeah, Sunfire. So I can't remember the whole difference between him and Sunspot because like I have them both over here, but I do remember him like having his cards when I was younger and stuff, and he was one of the cooler guys, at least in my opinion, But again, he had like a very different look back then because everybody did in the 90s. And then what was the other thing? What else happened on that Forbidden Door? Like the Osprey and Omega match. Like, see, it's matches like that. Like, as long as all these people are all these other places in the WWE set up, like you're kind of only working with them. So you kind of lose out on a lot of that. And then this is X-Man, right? I think it's like Cable's son or something like that. So it also tells you like down there, like these numbers go along with like the people over there. So it'll say like number 1 is the arms and number 2 is the head, whatever. But yeah, so I would like to see a lot more of those like Forbidden Door type things. I'm actually going to Philadelphia in a couple months for Multiverse United. It's the Impact and New Japan show. I don't know what's going to be on the card yet or anything. They haven't really said. All they've said is like Tanahashi's going to be there. So I'm going to go there. And there is a New Japan show the Saturday before that. I think it's a strictly New Japan thing. whatever it is, I'm sure it'll be fine. And then on Sunday is when like the main pay-per-view is. So I've been to one New Japan show, and it was what was it? It was Power Struggle, right? Power Struggle 2018 in Osaka, Japan, right? So luckily for me, I got to see my first New Japan show actually in Japan, which is kind of cool, right? So they've had some other ones since then around the states or whatever. They just had one up in DC not too long ago, but I think I heard about it like the day it was happening or like right before. So I ended up missing that, which was unfortunate. Jean Grey rounding that set off. She's got the face and all that. So there you go. There's that. My favorite match of all time. Let's see. I'm putting these things on so people know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about these things. Favorite match of all time. The one that I've definitely seen the most would be Rob Van Dam and Jerry Lynn from was it like Hardcore Heaven 99? Something like that. I forget what it was, but like that one was really good. It was like 30 minutes long. I remember buying the tape like back in the VHS days and watching it like over and over and over. Like the whole show was really good, you know? All the ECW pay-per-views were good, man. But that might be my favorite match because it's the only one that I can truly remember going back and watching again and again and again. Nowadays, like I see matches that are just as good probably, but I rarely ever go back and watch them. Like the Osprey Omega match from Sunday, that was like fantastic, right? Like to find something better than that, it's gonna take some time, you know, like as far as like things in the future or whatever. I don't know when it'll be topped, but it'll it might be when they wrestle again. Who knows? But for now, that match is like high up on my list of like good things to watch. And I've never gone back and watched it. Also, off that same note, I went to last year, I went to WrestleMania, right? I bought tickets for mom and dad and stuff. And we also saw the Ring of Honor show. I can't think of the name of it. Super Card of Honor, right? So that was the first Briscoes versus FTR match, right? And that thing was crazy. But like for whatever reason, every event that I've been to, I never watch anything of it on TV, you know, because I see it there and it's like so amazing. And you know, like I guess maybe I don't want to ruin it for myself and like go watch it and maybe it's not as good as I remember or something. In that case, I'm sure it was, but it's just a thing about me. I just never go back and rewatch things. But yeah, to answer your question, it's going to be Rob Van Dam, Jerry Lynn for sure. Moving on to the next set. This one I really wanted. I had my eye on it for a while. It's the Strong Guy set, right? Because I don't know. I've just been a fan of X Factor for a lot of years. And Strong Guy initially seemed pretty cool when I was younger. So I saw this. I was like, oh, that'd be cool to have. But for 160 or whatever it was, I was like, I don't really want to spend all that. But they dropped it down for a one-day sale to like 110. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's see. I have a lot, but one is the Great Muta and Ric Flair match in WA days. You know, that's the thing that I completely missed, right? A lot of that stuff, a lot of those older matches, you know, I've seen some like the WWF things from earlier on, like mid to late 80s, early 90s, you know, that stuff. But a lot of those, like that era type stuff that you're talking about, where you have like people like Terry Funk and like Junkyard Dog and all those guys that are kind of like getting built up or whatever, you know, Coco Beware and whatever. Yeah, I would like to go back and watch a lot of that stuff, but it is not easy finding the time to do stuff nowadays, you know? I mean, part of it is because, like, I'll devote X amount of time to this, right? This whole YouTube situation. And then I'll try to give some time to, like, you know, going and working out and all that. It's just, I'll sit down and think, like, oh, I need to watch this thing. I'm going to make some time for it. And then next thing you know, like, the whole show is like all the seasons or all the episodes have aired, and I have completely forgotten about it. Speaking like on this new Gremlins show that's on, I think, HBO Max, and that Muppets show that's on Disney, right? Muppets Mayhem. I want to watch both of those. Haven't done either because I'm still behind on Jessica Jones. So, yeah, one of these days I'm thinking like sooner rather than later. I'm gonna, take a little break from some of this stuff because I've been going all in for like the last several weeks. Maybe take a week and just don't do any of it and just do some stuff like that because that would be pretty awesome to go and check that out. I'll put the link in there if you want to jump in. You can like speak if you don't want to type or whatever. But there's a lot of stuff. What else would you recommend though? You got any other matches? It's like because I'm sure I know there've been plenty of their matches that are like solid, and I don't doubt it. But what else would you suggest? Oh yeah, not enough time. Yeah, it's weird how that works. Like, because I mean, I wake up early, like 6:30, 7 in the morning, like daily, right? And I'll do like a bunch of stuff, like the last couple of days, and I wake up, maybe do something related to this, go to the gym, get something to eat, come back, and I'm done at that point a fair amount, and it's like just just afternoon, right? Like maybe like 12:30, 1 o'clock. And then it's like I got to do something like work related or whatever, which doesn't take long. But then all of a sudden, like the day is gone. I'm just like, all right, well, I got some stuff done today. I guess I'll do more tomorrow. Got a Deadpool here. This was his X-Force gear, if I'm remembering correctly. I tried to read through that, but not quite sure. It doesn't say, but either way. So there's that. I have a little mini statue of him, and kind of like the blue and yellow, but it's like black and gray, or maybe it's gray with black. I can't remember which one was most of the makeup or whatever. Let's see, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Ric Flair. Yeah, like Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. He's a guy that I hear so much about, like how crisp he was in the ring and all that, And I've seen. I mean, the one match that stands out would be, was it WrestleMania 3, him and Savage? That match, I watched that one a lot as well because I had just bought the tape. I didn't have a whole lot of tapes, in that era of my life, whatever. But the ones that I did have, I watched constantly, which is another thing about now. Like, there's so much out there. Like, there's wrestling every day. So that makes it kind of harder to watch as well. Because let's see, there's no show on Sunday, but then you got something on Monday because Monday is Raw, Tuesday is NXT, Wednesday is Dynamite, Thursday is a day off, possibly, or maybe that's Impact. Maybe I think that might be Impact's day. Friday has what, Rampage and SmackDown. Then Saturday is Collision. So like there's wrestling on like every day basically, And if you miss one, like, well, you've got some time to catch up in there if you've got the time. But it's just so much to take in, like, especially if you want to do anything else, because it's hard to watch wrestling in a way, because it's like watching a movie to me, because you want to like sit there and focus on it, right? Because the second you look away, it's, oh my god, it's like, wait, what just happened? Next thing you know, like dudes on the floor that's like, it's like, wait, who came out? Like, what just happened? Where, then you got to wait for the replay depending on what kind of watching you're doing. So you want to sit there and focus on it the whole time, which means doing anything else is not so easy. It's not so bad on pay-per-views because like what matches you don't care about. But I'm just saying, like when it's like a solid show, like match after match, like AEW does often, yeah, it's hard. So you got this pirate Deadpool for some odd reason. I don't know what the deal was with this. It wasn't something that I would necessarily like buy on my own. But again, I was going for this whole strong guy thing, which obviously I got because I bought the whole set. Let's see. Anything NWA? Yeah, because what else? Like, and I've been trying to get into Ring of Honor. I haven't bought the subscription, right? I got the Ring of Honor Club or whatever it is, and I watched that like rarely. I've watched one episode. It was good, and I liked it, but I just forget that it exists, right? So then the hard part is like kind of getting it into your routine, right? And making time to do it regularly so that you remember to do it. Because I don't know what time it comes on, so I'm not doing it live. You know what I'm saying? So I watch it whenever it's convenient. But maybe I should try to put some focus into just watching it whenever it comes on. But I don't know. And Impact is the same. I have their little subscription service. I watch their pay-per-views and stuff, and I'll buy the ones that aren't included in the subscription. But their weekly show, which is always has little clips that I see. Oh man, that looks like a pretty good show. Yeah, I just never go back for it. And then Shikla, yeah, I don't know who she is, what she has anything to do with. She's got this little shark guy going on with her, so she's got that. And Strong Guy's leg or arm, excuse me. So there we have that. Over here, Marvel's Maverick, right? So he was another piece of this. And the one thing about these things, I'll get these opened up like I did with like the last 3 sets actually. Get them displayed somewhere. As far as doing like an actual in-depth review and whatnot, we're doing this on camera like that, closing everything off with Black Tom Cassidy, last but certainly not least, because I actually like this guy. He's got some weird powers, but it kind of seems cool in a way too. So if you do want to see more of these things or whatever, like the in-depth stuff, whoever's watching this, you can make a comment down below and I'll like make that happen. And then rounding things off, because I just happen to have some other stuff over here, just not legends, but I'll show that. Let's see. I like how Tony Khan is doing it. Feels like NWA days to me sometimes. Okay, so I'm going to speak on that as far as what I think you mean, but to me, like, it seems, and then you can clarify, because I may not be reading this in the same way that you're thinking it. But to me, like, when I think like older wrestling, I think of like the different little territories and stuff, right? And so that is kind of how it comes off, right? So like, just because you were in like, say, like Atlanta didn't mean you couldn't like work with somebody that was in, I don't know, say like Mississippi or like, Tennessee or wherever, whatever other promotions there were, And it's just like, sometimes you'd bring in this guy and it's like, oh man, that's a big guy from like this other place. Like I've never seen him. And like, now he's over here, because that's what from watching like, or listening to the Jim Cornette podcast, I hear a lot about that, how they used to do all that stuff. And how sometimes you'd have to say like, oh, well, I'm going to bring in this guy, but if I bring in him, we can't have so-and-so on the card. Or like, I don't know, if bringing in like Junkyard Dog to this era or to this area at this time is going to be good because so-and-so is really big and like they can't just, it won't be right to have them both be in there because unless they're going against each other, it's just not going to work. So that was one of the things that is cool now, because I see all these people at all these different shows. But otherwise, I can't say like what NWA was like as far as how the shows were run or whatever. But I would imagine they were probably pretty solid. And yeah, that's okay, cool. But yeah, it's just, you have so many people out there. Like, it's just foolish in a way to say that like, oh, well, you can't wrestle this person unless you go sign a 4 or 5 year contract with this company to work there. It's like, that's ridiculous, If the two can come together, like Japan and AEW, 2 totally different places. It's like, yeah, like somebody has to lose the match. Who really cares at the end of the day? Mankind is one of the biggest names in the history of wrestling, and he lost a lot of the matches that people really like that people talk about of his, right? So it doesn't really matter. Like, if the match is good, the match is good. I mean, Kenny Omega just lost like a big match, which made sense, but it's like, I'm just saying, people can lose and it can be fine. And I think sometimes that is probably what drives those things to not happen, because like the individuals are like, I'm not going there unless I win, right? Some people do have that mentality. I picked up this White Queen the other day, like when I was at, I don't know, a friend of mine was having something, and then we went to this little bookstore thing or whatever afterwards because it was like next door. And they sold all these like random old figures in there. And I was like, you know what? I never had a White Queen figure. I remember this packaging. Let's do that. Why not? And then one last thing that I'll say about like the Marvel Legends. So I did pick up these 2 right here some time ago. This is the Moon Knight figures based off of the Moon Knight show from Disney Plus, right? So very cool. I think these should be in stores soon if they aren't already. But the other thing about them is like, I would like to build this dude, this Ultron guy, right? But the thing is, I would need to buy all of those other people. And I heard terrible things about the She-Hulk. Already didn't really want the figure, so I kind of don't want to buy that. And that Miss Marvel girl, didn't like that at all. So I don't want to spend money on that either. Those other 3 people, mostly indifferent towards. The Hawkeye show was good, but it's not something I care to really go out and buy. And then whoever that woman is, Sharon Carter or something. Yeah, that's kind of like, more indifference. So I'd like to get them, but hopefully they just like drop down in price significantly to the point to where I just don't care. But right now at full retail, I can't do it. Let's see here. Yeah, Vince McMahon messed up the business to me. I'm just saying, how do you feel about that? But yeah, it's McMahon. I mean, he did some good things for the wrestling world. I won't deny that. But he also he did some damage. He did some damage. I mean, just think about the whole WCW situation, right? So WCW, yeah, it was kind of like not in a good place for the last couple of years. I don't know what you remember of it, but it was fine when I started watching wrestling in early '97. But 2 years later, 3 years later, something like that, it was not okay, right? It was not okay at all, and that's no secret. And so then it goes out of business, and he bought it, right? And for the next forever, basically, that was like he was the only promotion. So there was no competition. And when there's no competition, you don't have to be good, especially if you already have the name value, you know? Like let's say Method Man came out with Tikal, right? And then all the other rappers just somehow disappeared, right? And he's just there. It's like, yeah, he's now the only guy. And yeah, he was really good at some point, right? But is he still going to be good later when he is the only guy and doesn't have to try? Maybe, maybe not. In this case, not, because they just took this weird turn. WWF did, right? Was that after the? Yeah, it was still WWF at the time, which was unfortunate. And then while they were being bad, like there wasn't much else to watch until TNA. Was it like what were they called? Like, yeah, the Impact TNA thing, until that came around. Forget how the whole name change went, but they came around, right? So they were doing all right for themselves, from what I understand. I still see the clips and stuff during the pay-per-views, but the channel wasn't widely available to everybody. So I couldn't watch it, though I was interested in it. It was like Ring of Honor would be years later. Like I wanted to watch it, I just didn't have access to it. And so that's kind of one of the things that McMahon did, was took out all the competition, and then all the little guys that were maybe trying to build up a name for themselves, he had the money, so he could just buy them out. Well, not buy out the company, but he could take their top stars and then do nothing with them. I mean, was it just like 3 years ago or something that they were doing that, when they got like, actually it's longer than that, when they were just buying up all the people, you know? They were bought out Evolve, and it was like around the time like Ricochet signed with them and stuff, which was just unfortunate. Not about Ricochet, but just unfortunate that all these people with all this talent were like bought up, you know, and good for them for making the big paydays, but then they couldn't really be showcased anywhere. Again, going back to the EO Sky thing, right? She came around, she had a good run in NXT for like maybe a year, and then that was the end of it, right? Until recently, where now, as of yesterday, it looks like she might be on to something. So closing things out, picked up some Gargoyles figures recently, almost done with this set. The last one that I need to get is Lexington. He's this little green guy right there, right? Maybe you guys remember him, little scrawny dude. So this is Brooklyn. He's the big one, or excuse me, Broadway. He's the big one, right? At least like as far as super heavyweight kind of status goes. NECA figures, so that's why they come in these fancy boxes, upscale sort of things with an upscale price too. I think these are like, was it $40 a figure, maybe something like that. And they also had this. Wait, what's going on down there? And nonstop total wrestling. Yeah, because I remember seeing it, like I can picture it in my head, like because I remember seeing clips of like the Amazing Red and like Christopher Daniels and stuff like that, you know. And then I just would see them online, and that was kind of that was it. So now I just see like the little highlights and stuff. I actually have a tab open on my computer right now, like talking about like the history of the Main Event Mafia, you know, because I look at that and I'm like, wait, so there was like this stable that had like Kevin Nash and Sting and Booker T and Kurt Angle and somebody, Scott Steiner. I'm like, that had to have been pretty awesome, especially like if it was at a time when like they could all wrestle. Like that had to have been like a pretty awesome deal, right? So yeah, I really feel like having missed out on those years of TNA sucks a lot, or Impact or whatever. In the same way that I missed out on, there was some years where Paul Heyman was running SmackDown, like during like the Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle and Edge type era, and that, from what I understand, was amazing. So yeah, this is Brooklyn right there, little reddish maroonish dude, right? He's got the long rock star hair going on and all that stuff. So picked him up as well. I actually saw both of those the same day, so I bought them. And a few weeks ago, a month ago, I had picked up Hudson already. So he's the old dude, right? So just about done with these. They are very nice figures. If you really like gargoyles, it's definitely worth it, because like they come with all the extra stuff, really good detail. The price is kind of high, right? Not going to pretend it's not, but if you're selective with your purchases and stuff, and you're just going to go get a couple of those, I'd say it's worth it. You know, kind of splurge a little bit. You deserve it, right? I assume you deserve it. But yeah, there's the whole wrestling thing, man. There's a lot of stuff. Paul Heyman was in the NWA back in the day too. Yeah, it's funny how like he's like Wolverine, you know, like when you, or not Wolverine, like Captain America or something, you know, where, well, I guess both of them, where you see like the comics and stuff, and like they show these like things from like hundreds of years ago, and like there he was or whatever. It's like out here doing this years and years before that, out here doing that. Paul Heyman has just been constantly involved with wrestling. And right now I mean, consistently, he's been doing some amazing work, you know, to the point that where he can kind of just carry himself however he wants to. And they know that he is of value. So like, he's been fired, he's been rehired, he's been fired and rehired, you know. He did the ECW thing, which is, for a lot of people, like me specifically, what put him on the map, right? Because I would have sure found out about him later, without a doubt. You can't not find out about Paul Heyman. But ECW was how I learned about him. And because I was so into that, and he was like the creator of it, that's kind of where he made me a fan of him. So wherever I would see him going, I was like, oh, interesting. I will say I wasn't super big into this when he first appeared with Roman Reigns thing, because I was like, are you guys just desperate to make Roman Reigns like get some kind of attention? It ended up working out very well, I will say that. I'm still not a fan of the guy personally, but I can't argue that what they did over the years, and still going on right now, it was definitely like one of the better storylines. Like, no one can really argue that. Paulie Dangerously. Yeah, he went by that. Oh, okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. In the NWA, yeah. That I didn't know. I mean, it may have been said in my presence or whatever, but if you had asked me true or false style or whatever, I would have like, I would have just guessed that that name came up in ECW, because it just made sense in ECW. But yeah, that's something. But I'll have to go digging through some things, whatever. I do have a little bit of free time right now. I mean, the videos that I have going out later tonight have already been completely done, right? So I got the thumbnails made, got all the back side of things, like algorithm pieces where you got to type in tags and descriptions. Get my little markers in there for like cards to pop up. All that stuff's done. I do have to do the thumbnail for the quarterly pickup video, but that's easy enough to do. And that one's already online. So really I just need to go in there and type up some stuff. So I should have a pretty easy night from here out. So hopefully I'll be able to catch up on some things, watch a little bit. Let's see. He was better when he was with Brock Lesnar to me. Yes, he was. Like, with Paul Heyman, with Roman Reigns, he was kind of just like, because it's still happening, just kind of like the little suck up sort of guy, right? I mean, every so often, like when you see Paul Heyman representing him, but it's just like him going like verbally, like one-on-one with like Kevin Owens or something, those are very entertaining too, right? But something about like the team of Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman was just like crazy, because like, Brock Lesnar's coming out there all big and bad, like angry, and Paul Heyman's coming out with like that weird smirk on his face, like, oh, like he's about to destroy everybody in this ring, and I get to just sit here and watch it, like having the time of his life, right? So yeah, I totally agree with you that he was better then. The, but I will also say, like, on their own, right? Brock Lesnar did better than Roman Reigns. Period. That's my opinion, right? Because when he was coming out there doing his like little farmer Brock sort of thing, had his little hat and his overalls, and had like the Brock party going on a while ago. Yeah, like he's just to me more entertaining. Like the Roman Reigns thing, it's working for him, but at the same time, it's like it's been kind of going on a while. Like even the Undertaker, like he was always the Undertaker, right? But he's changed it a little bit, like there was always him. Like he could be good, he could be bad, right? He could change his moves a little bit, but there was something that was always there, and you're just like, okay, yeah, it's always going to be him. Shawn Michaels, same thing, right? Some people can just do that, but it's like they found this thing that works for him, and they're like, okay, just do this until Sami Zayn came along, and then things were over here for a while. But that's Sami Zayn. I mean, he just brings out that in a lot of people, I guess, because that just seems that way. But appreciate you stopping in, though. I'm probably about to jump on out of here. I just wanted to show these things off or whatever, kill some time talking. I try to check in with the people in the live situation every so often, because the comments, like, I mean, it's not the same, right? It really isn't. Somebody can say something, we can have a little back and forth, but it's not the same as, like, I know we're not verbally speaking or whatever, but it's closer to real time than those like asymmetric communication or whatever. It's not ideal for an actual conversation. Let's see. Yeah, Brock Lesnar is a savage. Brock's good. He truly is. Like, and it seems like, he can come in and he can be built up and he can be like the big guy that he is. And then, but if he loses, it's like, it stands out, but it's not over. You're just like, okay, he lost, but like something bad is going to happen later, right? So you don't really worry about it. And then, like, that's what happens. I just kind of, in some ways, I wish he hadn't wasted all that time with Cody Rhodes, because that just I feel like that didn't go anywhere for anybody. But we've already spoken about Mr. Rhodes, and I really hope things turn around for him and he becomes something that doesn't feel as forced, because he could be just like a natural guy that everybody's into. But if they keep playing this the way they're playing it for too long, the same way it's gone with some other people, like, you might get bored of them, right? So at some point, things are gonna have to change. Even Bianca Belair, right? They just switched her up. Nobody was getting tired of her, it seemed, but you just do it sometimes before people get tired of it. So that way, when the change happens, it's like, oh, whoa, what is this? Then it's like people are still interested. They're just like, okay, let's see what's going on. Like, she's gotten a little heelish lately, And I'm liking that little slow burn that they're doing. So we'll see. We'll see what goes on from there. But yeah, like I said, I'm gonna step on out of here. Probably throw some wrestling on in the background or whatever. Yeah, I didn't get the Brock and Cody thing. Yeah, it was just straight filler to me, right? Just personal opinion, of course. But I'm gonna go ahead, move on. Guys, I do have a couple things that I need to do, which is cleaning up is for sure one of them. Got a bunch of crap out. But from me to you, have a nice rest of your day or rest your night, whatever it is, wherever you are. Say that to everybody, of course, that might be watching. I'm going to go ahead, step away. I'll be back with like some actual content, hopefully this week. Like I said before, I got a couple wrestling type things, shirt review things or whatever, unboxings that'll be going up later tonight. And then Monday morning, the quarterly pickup video will go out, and hopefully a couple other footwear review things this week, right? I was just trying to get all that other stuff out of the way, so now I can, get back to what this channel is like mostly doing, right? I mean, I do a lot of stuff, but that is kind of like the bread and butter of it. Can't argue that, right? But again, thanks for everybody for stopping in, giving me up however much of your time you gave up. But now I'm giving it back to you, so you can go do whatever is more important with your day, which is probably anything.